Most of you watching this video have heard of the company 45 Drives, the company known for making those big juicy storage servers. Well, they actually do a lot more than that with their sister company Proprietary, from custom design, full manufacturing, software development, and more. That's cool and all, but does that make them a good company? They actually invited me out to their Creator Summit this year, where I got an opportunity to meet some of my favorite YouTubers and also interact with the people at 45 Drives who make things happen. Yes, I know exactly what you're thinking. You're saying,
Brett, you're just going to say all nice things because they brought you out there. You're so biased.
Look, I'm not going to pretend like there isn't some kind of bias because I'm human, but I'm going to try to be as objective as possible when I talk about what I learned during that week. So let's start with the expectations and the perception people have of 45 Drives, including myself. Before I ever got the opportunity to work with them, my perception was that 45 Drives is the company that makes those big, fancy, expensive storage servers. Another thing was that I knew they were a small company, but I had no idea what their actual size was. And the last thing was that I assumed they just made backplanes and stuck them in chassis that they outsourced. Alright, so I think the number one perception was about how they make big, expensive servers, right? Well, that's half true. I got to meet a customer of 45 Drives during our meet and greet who is responsible for hundreds of terabytes worth of data in their organization. I was talking to him about the video I was planning to make, and I said to him, yeah, people see 45 Drives as that company that makes expensive servers. And he kind of looked at me and went, expensive? We have a full stack of 45 Drive servers with hundreds of terabytes of storage for a fraction of the cost of our Cohesity system. He even sent over his invoice from 45 Drives, and you can see from that not only was the hardware much more affordable, but the software support was too. That right there kind of confirmed one of the hot topics of the week, which was the downside of proprietary, which I don't think is a word, but one of them is cost. When you go through a big box company for your storage needs like Dell, HP, whoever, there's going to be a level through either the hardware or the software where you're locked into whatever that company chooses for you. In exchange for that higher price, you usually get dedicated support and the warm, fuzzy feeling that you're being backed by a large company. And they never mess up, right? The funny thing is that 45 Drive seems to give you the best of both worlds. None of what they sell you is proprietary, from the hardware to the software, which is open source and built on top of a public Linux distro. And they also provide you support on everything. When talking to that same customer, he confirmed his entire experience has been positive. However, I'm aware that a disgruntled 45 Drives customer wouldn't come to a meet and greet, and it's ridiculous to say that every customer is a happy one, but objectively, I think they're doing an awesome thing here. And guys, it's very cliche, but they really do care about the customer. It's posted all over their campus along with their company ethics. Now, I work in corporate America. I know the difference between saying the customer is our number one priority and posting some propaganda all over versus actually living by that. These guys really are motivated by the idea of making their customer the hero of their organization. They want whoever buys a 45 Drive solution to be applauded for that decision 1 to 10 years down the line. Again, intentions aren't always reality. You can put up all the optics you want, and that doesn't mean anything unless you're acting on it, so I'm hoping that's the experience for their customers. Now, I've done a lot of talking about how 45 Drives benefits the business or enterprise customers, but what about us home labbers? Well, I think that's where the expensive servers perception is actually confirmed. 45 Drives objectively makes more expensive hardware in the home lab market. That's not a secret, and they know that. Do I wish it cost less? Yeah, duh, but there is a reason that they take the expensive/premium approach. So 45 Drives isn't a large company when compared to your major computer manufacturers. They have roughly 400 employees between them and Protocase, and their entire organization is split among a few buildings in walking distance from each other. This immediately tells you that they aren't going to be focused on the economy at scale. I mean, the only reason they can even get into the home lab market is because they quite literally do everything in-house. They design everything, walk across the parking lot, take the metal off the shelf, cut it with a laser, tap the screw holes, make the bends, weld the parts together, clean it, paint it, put a custom design on it, and then pack it up and ship it. They even have a custom box maker, which I thought was really cool. For a small company, this is actually wild, and the stuff they make is just an insane level of quality. So when they got into the home labbing with their 45 Drives line, they said, we can keep that same quality but offer it at a reasonable enough price since everything we do is in-house anyway. Basically, yes, it's expensive, but they're fine with that. And I mentioned that the theme of the event was the downsides of proprietary software, but the actual theme was de-Microsoftification, where we generally use Microsoft as a metaphor for most of it. 45 Drives is heavy into this, even so much so that they're actually doing a trial right now of switching some of their employees over to full-time Linux setups. And as we know, that's not always easy. I'm still using Microsoft. And this makes sense for them since the software they've built, Houston UI, is built on top of Rocky Linux or Ubuntu, both open source free distros of Linux. And like I mentioned before, the hardware they ship is non-proprietary as well. You're getting a standard size motherboard with hardware that you can buy elsewhere and swap out as your heart desires. This is a pretty interesting approach from a business perspective because businesses love proprietary stuff. When a customer spends $1 million on hardware or software, that's a large investment, not just monetarily, but from the time perspective if you need to be trained on a new software. Well, what happens if you become unhappy with it or the support you're getting isn't great? Well, a normal person would say just switch to something else. Duh. That's not always an option due to sunk costs. My budget may not allow me to go out and spend another $1 million on new hardware with its own proprietary software. For those of you that work in IT, how many times have you heard people complaining about a software your company uses, but you still continue to use it? It's probably why. 45 Drive says, here's your hardware, put whatever software you want on it. You can use ours if you want, we can provide support if you want, but nothing is stopping you from going elsewhere with your money after you buy something from us. That is a large risk from the business side because you're relying solely on the quality of your product to keep customers coming back, and I respect that. For home labbers, we love open source, we love choices, but we don't like paying a lot of money, so I think that's why 45 Drives isn't really the go-to when it comes to all home labbers. And I know I've said a lot of good things about 45 Drives here, but they are not perfect. We all know it's optimal for the same company to make both the hardware and the software, or at the very least ship them as a bundle like 45 Drives does, as this ensures proper compatibility. With that said, I think they need to put more effort into their software side with Houston UI. If they're going to keep their customers around and be able to provide the best support, it's pretty obvious that it would be easier if their customers choose to use the software that they built. But how many of you have bought a 45 Drives product and just ended up putting TrueNAS or Proxmox on it? Yeah, me. And the thing is, they know this. A lot of what we discussed were ideas on how to make Houston UI a proper open source solution that can compete with other NAS offerings like Synology, QNAP, Ugreen, etc. At the time of making this video, it's still only officially supported on older versions of Ubuntu and Rocky due to long-term support for their enterprise users. So I'd love to see them shift some of the focus from their hardware side to more of the software side. Another thing that's not really a negative, but something I think they can do better at is lean more into their hardware for content creation.
Wait, Brett, you just said to focus more on software.
Yeah, they already do hardware really well, which is why I want to see them make better software. But since they have such a cool operation over there, they should be showing that all over their socials. If I could just walk across the parking lot and show you guys how a sheet of metal becomes your HL15, all in one single building, my ass would be over there every day with a camera talking about it. And that would only help get people to understand why their HL15 costs more than a rose will off Amazon. I mean, how many companies say, we built this in-house, but what they really mean is, we bought all the parts from China and put them together. They have a gold mine of potential content that they're sitting on. I just wish they'd leverage it. Overall, though, I think 45 Drives has something special going on over there in Nova Scotia, Canada. They're not just saying all the right things right now, but they're actually doing them. They brought 5 creators in for a week and actually sat down with us for hours every day to pick our brains on how to make a better product for you guys. Hell, the owner of the company was there the entire time leading the conversation. I'm not just talking about like one day for a quick intro. No, Doug was with us all day, every day, listening and writing down ideas. And all of this was under the umbrella of open source, nothing proprietary. So while 45 Drives does make expensive stuff for home labbers and their software isn't quite where it needs to be, they're standing firm on their goal to keep the end user's needs number one, and that's quite often the case right now for their business customers. I'm hoping next year that they'll be showing off a brand new version of Houston that will be able to compete with all those off-the-shelf NAS products and give us a full open source self-hosted solution that can go toe-to-toe with TrueNAS and the likes. Fingers crossed. And while I'm aware of how this video sounds, like I'm shilling for a company that wine and dined me, and maybe I am, but if I'm going to shill for a company, I'd rather it be a small company who makes cool stuff, is pushing open source, and is filled with kind and motivated people. And if that's the case, so be it. But that's all I have for this one. If you liked the video, then drop a like and subscribe if you want to see me go back next year for a follow-up. I think that'd be pretty cool. I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube members and my Patreons. You guys are my small company of support that makes super high quality stuff. You guys are the best. And if you're still watching, you're Windows 11. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.